First day back from my trip to Hong Kong, and obviously the first thing I'm gonna do is go and play at a session in today. Going to Twin River, not a place that I like to play at, but it's the only place that's close to me right now before the Encore, before the Wynn in Boston opens up. So we're gonna go do that, see how it goes, and yeah. I guess we'll see. I haven't played live poker in about a week, basically, because I had my trip to Hong Kong and Macau. I played that one session, obviously, but it was only for like 2 minutes, and I'm looking forward to getting this going. Looking forward to get the session in. I think I'm gonna play a mix of 1-2 or maybe 2-5 at Twin. We'll see how it goes. The 1-2 play is pretty small there, but the action is just crazy, as the people who do play there know. So we'll see. I mean, the 2-5 plays basically the same as a 1-2 at MGM Springfield, where I usually play at. So that's probably the game that I'll be more familiar with and used to. But let's get it going. First hand we have here, I look down at Pocket Rockets and Undergun +2. Life is good, and I have about like 340 in my stackish. So Undergun player limps, which is great. I make it $15, and we get 4 callers around, including the limpers. So 3 other players in position, and the undergun player in there as well. So that's not ideal, going 5 ways to a flop with aces. But when the flop comes ace, king, deuce with 2 spades, flopping top set, it's pretty good. You feel pretty good about that, going multi-way. So when the undergun player checks to me, I usually would c-bet this, but I think, once again, like I said, I'm on a super active table, and someone's gonna at least try to take a stab at it, either with the king or maybe with the spade draw. So I decide to play things a little bit trickier. I check, and it checks all the way to the button player, actually, and this guy has been playing every single hand and being super aggressive, super active, and he ends up betting $30. Makes the $30 bet, and he has his stacks about 300-ish. So I'm trying to get stacks in now. Not really trying to, just really trying to charge the max for turns and rivers. And the undergun player actually calls, to my surprise. So I'm a little confused as to, I mean, I think the button could be betting with air there, but once again, this is a 100% of the time a raise spot. So I decided to make it a little bit bigger here and actually raise to 150. The undergun player who called also has around 250, 300 in the stack as well. So also, once again, just trying to get it all in on the flop if possible, and that'd be cool. And to my surprise, a middle position player ends up jamming for less. Jams for about $82, and he's not what I would consider a good player. He's been showing a lot of very marginal and suspect hands in weird spots. So when he jams, it's weird because I think now the button, it's still, I mean, he jams for less, so it doesn't really matter too much, and it actually ends up folding all the way around. The undergun player folds ace jack. He was just showing everyone his cards and holding it in a weird way. It's Twin River, who knows, but he folds ace jack, so I know he's got to be on a draw, and I flip over my hand pretty quickly. He has queen 5 of spades. Turn is another deuce, so it's over right there. River's a 7, and we scoop up that one in our first big hand of the session. Next hand, we have pocket 7s in the hijack with about 500 in front of me. There's 3 limpers to me, and I'm gonna ISO here and make a larger raise, just trying to play it maybe heads up or 3 ways to a flop. So I make it $20. A bad tilted small blind, the guy that I stacked before, he calls, and 2 other of the limpers call as well. So didn't really do a good job of ISOing, and we're going 4 ways to a flop, and the flop is actually pretty good for us. It's 8-9-5 rainbow. The small blind, the guy that I stacked, pretty bad. He's tilted. He leads out and jams for $61 into 80. So that's a weird spot. And the undergun player at this time, he thinks for a good amount of time. He tanks for maybe 2 minutes or so, and then ends up rejamming for only $71 total. So about like $10 more, and It's interesting when it folds back to me because obviously I mean I've got to be behind one of the people's ranges, right? Someone's got to have an 8-9, and 8, and someone could have Jack 10. It's a rainbow board, so it's weird, and I ultimately think for a while I'm getting 3-1 on a call, and I ended up just making the fold. I think I could call this spot all the time if the under the gun player wasn't in there, because I think the small blind's range is just so wide and jamming range is just extremely wide. I have no idea what's going on, but I ended up making the fold. The under the gun player had pocket 10s. Small blind said that he just openly said that he has nothing. I don't even think he has a draw, which is absurd. But the turn in the river is a 7 and a 9, and I could have scooped that whole thing. I was really thinking about making that call, but I think it's an unprofitable one. I mean, obviously I have my 6 outs, and I have the gutter for any 6, and obviously the other 2 outs to hit the 7, and I would end up boating up. Who knows? I think it's the right fold long term, but I really thought that I was getting a mediocre price to call here with pocket 7s, because that board really hits my actual holding a lot. But that's how that hand played out. Folded the winner, but that's sometimes going to happen. Shortly after that hand, we have pocket 4s in middle position. Got about 550 in my stack, and this one is quite the doozy, so let's get into it. The player on my right limps. He opened limps here, and I decided to just limp as well with my 4s. The button and the blinds are all in as well, on a 5-way limped pot. So the button player in this spot is the guy that I stacked. He's the villain, and it gets a little interesting, gets a little dicey. So we're going 5 ways to a limped pot. Flop comes 3-4-5 with 2 spades out there. Middle set on a super connected board, flush draw board, and when it checks to me, there's no way I'm checking in this spot. So I bet $7. I mean, obviously I can make it like 15, but I'm trying to get value. So I bet 7. The button player, he's pretty bad. He min raises me to $15, basically a min raise. The small blind calls, which I don't understand as well, and the button player at this point has around like 460, 450 in this total stack. So I'm trying to get stacks in with middle set. There's a lot of draws out there. 5-6 can be doing this. I guess like, yeah, stuff like that where you have a lot of equity, and I think I could be ahead a lot of the time. So for value, and also just kind of see where I'm standing here, and just trying to ISO to get a heads up and get some of the draws out there, I decide to re-raise to $75. The button quickly just announces all in. He just announces all in for $450. Small blind gets out of the way, and at this point, it's very clear what he has. I think he has ace deuce, maybe ace deuce suited, and I'm just behind a lot of time. There's no way, or maybe even 6-7 is definitely a possibility. It's either ace deuce or 6-7. He has the straight. I know I'm behind here a lot of the time, but it's so little for me to call to a certain degree. It's like 380 for me to make the call, and honestly at 1-2 it's something that I can afford to gamble with, especially with a player like him. I'm definitely more than willing to ship the pot over to a player like this, where I know for a fact that in the end all the money is going to go back to the table, and I'll just take a lot of it back when I rebuy. So I don't think I can ever fold. I made my re-raise way too big to fold to an all-in. If I made it like $60 or $55 or something like that, I can think about folding. I know it's a difference of $20 and doesn't matter, but in my head, I just thought that I made it too big to fold to an all-in. That was really gross that I just spit all over the place. But I decided to just ship it, make the call, and the turn brings us so much help immediately. It's another 3, so we bowed up the river. I have no idea what it was. Doesn't really matter. He has 6-7 offsuit, and we win that monster pot in this 1-2 game. So that was crazy. Don't really win that many big pots at Twin River at 1-2, especially when the buy-in's only 300 max. Mid-session update time. Mainly because I have to go get my phone charger, so hopefully the wind isn't too bad here and you can pick up my voice. But played for an hour and a half at 1-2 and ran things up. on a just ran super hot, and people were playing honestly pretty terrible, but I that last hand was a cooler there, and I played for an hour and a half, in for 300, out for 1,000, so quick 700. And after I go get to my car, gonna hit up the 2-5 game, just got into a seat there, gonna buy in for the max 500 and see how it goes. People were playing 8-5 offsuit, calling like $15 raises pre and stuff like that, so I'm very confused as to how people play here, which is crazy. But I mean, I went 5-6 ways with aces, and the last hand I played, I had, what was it? I had 8-9 suited, and there's 2 limpers to me in middle position. I make it $20, and we go six ways to the flop. Of a queen high board, I pair up my 8. I think it was like an 8, queen 8-10 board, something like that. Didn't win it, but I went 6 ways. 5 other people called me, and the hand that won was queen 8 offsuit. So I'm just, from people who like I think are playing who would be better players than that, but I'm so confused. I can't find my car. There it is. But yeah, I'm just so rattled that that even happened. But it's queen 8 off, calling $20 pretty out of position in the small blind. Doesn't make sense, but we'll try to run it up in 2-5, and hopefully it all goes well. So I transferred to 2-5, buy in for the max 500, and I'm fairly carded in this spot. I think I'm like an hour into the session, and I looked down at queen jack offsuit in early position. I'm on a fairly active table. Things don't really change when you move from 1-2 to 2-5. I really wanted to experiment it and see what the action was like, and honestly, it's basically the same thing. There's a lot of fish. There's a lot of people who do not like folding. So the player on my right with a huge stack of 2K, open limps, and with queen jack offsuit, I think I could just fold here a lot of the time, but in this instance, I've been card dead, 2 face cards, I'll play it. So I decided to limp as well, and crazy enough, it becomes a 7-way limped pot with a 3 of spades exposed, and that's just all I know so far. So flop comes 3-5 jack rainbow, top pair with a pretty good kicker. The only issue is that we're going 7 ways to a flop, so you never really know what people could have in a limped pot, especially at Twin River. So it checks to, so it actions up to me, checks to me, I decide to check, and it checks to a middle position player who bets $30, which is pretty big, 30 into 35, and that just seems way too big. A cutoff player calls and folds all the way to me, and I decide to peel and call here too. I mean, I think I'm ahead a lot of the time. I think I could be up against some weird jack 9s, jack 8s, stuff like that, because it's a limped pot. So I decided to call. So you have 3 ways to a turn, which is the 9 of clubs. So not really the best card, because it does remove one of the holdings that I do beat, jack 9 obviously, and it also adds in the backdoor flush draw that people could have. But once again, action to me. I'm out of position here, first to act. I'm first to act. I decide to check. The middle position player who bet 30 on the flop checked as well, and the cutoff makes a bet of $60, and he only has about 200 behind him. I think it's weird. It seems like value, but I'm just really not sure what kind of hands I lose to besides jack 9. There's a lot of holdings, like I guess pocket 5s, maybe 3-5, jack 5 suited, because that's always in someone's limped range in at Twin River here. Jack 5 suited, which is super weird. I don't think king jack, ace jack ever just limps, especially in position. So I decide to call, and the middle position player calls as well. So when the middle position player calls, I don't really feel too great about this. I'm just trying to get the showdown and possibly even give up on the river here and fold to any bet. But we'll evaluate it. The river's an 8 of diamonds, so once again, I'm just behind jack 8. I'm behind a lot of jacks now at this point, and I check, middle position player checks, and cutoff player ends up jamming for 125. Such a small bet, and I think a lot of the time I call, but with the middle position player behind me, I feel like if I fold, then he can call and I can see it down, and I think I'm just not good a lot of the time here. So for all those reasons, didn't feel great about the hand. I fold, and middle position player calls. Cutoff ended up having pocket 3s, and hit is basically one outer for the set there, because there was another 3 exposed, which is crazy. Middle position player had ace jack suited spades, and I just had the worst hand there. So it is what it is. Ran into a couple of brick walls, but didn't win that one. But glad I got away on the river. Just didn't feel like I was ever ahead in that spot when someone is there for 3 streets and get some value out of it with his set. So second hand here, I have Jack 9 of spades in the big one with about 700 in front of me. This one comes pretty interesting, and I'll talk about what I think about my analysis after I just tell you guys what happens. So there's 2 limpers to the small blind, who I think is fairly fishy. He's made some stupid plays, made some stupid calls, playing some ridiculous hands like King 3 offsuit and flopping a boat, stuff like that. So he is a pretty big stack. He covers me, and he's definitely a player that I want to ISO and get it in with, and just apply maximum pressure on him. So he bets $15, raises to 15, super tiny. It makes no sense, and I decided to 3-bet ISO to 45. I think in hindsight I could make this a little bit bigger, but I make it 45, and the hijack who limped calls the 45, and the small blind called as well. So we're going 3 ways, which is just not what I wanted to happen, to a flop of Queen Jack 6 rainbow. The small blind checks, and I have middle pair here, but honestly in my 3-bet range I'm just trying to take it down. I do have showdown value, but I don't want to give out free cards, and I think I could maybe make a queen fold, like a queen 10. I don't think I can make ace queen fold, but hands like queen 10 I can make fold for sure. So I decided to lead out and bet $85. The middle position player calls, and the small blind folds. Turn is a king, puts the full rainbow on board, and it should smash my range a whole lot more, unless he has a hand like king queen, stuff like that. But I mean, I'm repping hands like aces and ace king. I want to play them the exact same way. So I bet 150, and he thinks for a little bit and makes the call. The river's a 6 of diamonds, so double paired board. I beat king queens hypothetically with ace king. Trying to rep that there. So I bet $200, and I make the mistake of not really seeing how big his stack was, and he only had 236, and he ends up jamming for that much. With my pair of jacks here, there's no way I'm good. I just really tried to push him off, and I think I just made the horrible mistake of continuing out on the river and just trying to tell the story, because the $200 bet was, I think, small enough to make hands like queen jack fold for sure. Queen 10, king 10 even could fold to that to a certain degree, but it's unfortunate, and I just fold. There's no reason for me to call $36 more when I know I'm behind. He stuck it in there. He shows ace 10 offsuit for fun and called me down with a gutter on the flop and got there and hit it. So I don't know what to make about that. Obviously, it's a terrible play by me. I was super card dead and just overplayed both of those hands, my queen jack hand to a certain degree, and definitely this hand. I didn't need to lose that much, but I tried to make some moves, and it just didn't work out, running into the gutter ball that he hit on the turn immediately. So it is what it is. We'll go to the outro. Post-session updates. Well, I left immediately after that Jack 9 hand because I'm just playing stupid. Yeah, I mean, 2-5 was just not nice to me. I ended up only playing 2 hours, only 2 hands to kind of talk about, because I just didn't get any hands, and those marginal hands I got, I overplayed. So, not great for me. Ran really well in 1-2, and ran like shit at 2-5, and kind of played bad too. So, not what you want to see at all. You'd like it to be the opposite, but it is what it is. Just super tired, super annoyed. I literally got like 3 playable hands. I got 3 playable hands. The one I talked about, the 2 I talked about. I don't even think Jack 9 suited is that playable, but yeah, or just overplayed it. Tried to make some moves, and it didn't work out. I won 1 hand. I don't think I'm going over it because there's no point. I just had King Jack on a 10 high board and double barreled and got it through. So not even a good play then, because it was super connected and it hit his range. But double barreled, got that one through, won that hand, and lost everything else. So I lost a total of 955 in those 2 hours at 2-5, which sucks ass. Completely erases all the progress I made at 1-2. I made 701-2 in an hour and a half, and just punted it. Not really punted it, just couldn't hit a goddamn thing. So that's how the session ended. Twin River is just not nice to me. I think I'm just complaining right now, really, and ranting, but I don't run well at all at Twin. I don't know what it is. I'm lifetime, like super down at Twin River. People just hit gutter balls, people hit flushes on me, and I was super surprised I ran that well at 1-2, but good things come to an end, and when you play stupid and you play tired, yeah, bad things happen. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed the video though, enjoyed the hands. I don't think I played great at all, but it is what it is. Sometimes we have those bad days, but I'll check you guys out in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did, and yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.